the last podcast, we talked a little bit about Mulisha, and we talked a little bit about the beginning stages, and we talked a little bit about you, and kind of there was some good questions we got asked in our JAXXON podcast Discord. But a lot of people want to know, when you were sitting down, was there ever a moment where you were sitting down and you're like, okay, this is much bigger than just riding. There's a bigger identity here, or there's something starting here with these guys, or that initial relationship with those guys? I feel like some of the story got lost in translation in the last podcast. So I feel like people wanted to know, where was it that you fit into that whole identity of Mulisha?
Of Metal Mulisha?
Yeah.
Well, to me, I just kind of, I look at Metal Mulisha like where it began and then what it turned into. It originally just started as like a thing with Larry Linkogel and Nathan Fletcher, just I think playing around, drawing on napkins, cups, and
on their surfboards.
Yeah, and I think both of them, but really, Linkogel was always just like, it's still to this day, I don't know if he really enjoys death metal. Like,
it was just.
Does anyone actually enjoy death metal? But
or is it just for the persona? Like,
yeah, just to piss people off.
Yeah,
because you can play a lot death metal in a crowd, and you're going to irritate a lot of people. And I think with Linkogel, he's just always that guy that's just loved pissing people off. He probably gets it from his dad. Like,
loves it.
I traveled with him as a kid, riding motocross, and then as far as the other side of Metal Mulisha, Deegan, I knew Brian since we raced mini bikes, like 60s. I think one of the first races I can remember rocking it out with him on the track was at Paris Raceway, probably like, we're probably like 9, 10 years old.
Crazy.
So just growing up with those dudes and knowing like, these are my race competitors. We hang out every once in a while. And then all of a sudden, Deegan's moving from Nebraska to California. And that was just kind of like the start of just everybody kind of finding themselves, I guess. Like,
yeah, everyone, you
Deegan
guys are all still super young.
Dyes his hair purple.
Going to pimp and hoe parties.
Yeah, just, kind of living wherever he could couch surf until he got his own place in Canyon Lake. And, as far as the start of Metal Mulisha, until it like became a company, I guess it was just more dudes just having fun and throwing Metal Mulisha out there. As far as something, I don't think they originally thought how it would grow into what it grew.
No, never.
Never.
Like, it got huge, dude. It was insane.
No, I think Deegan did a few little tricks at the events that were just a part of really blowing up freestyle, that blew up Metal Mulisha and just turned. I mean, Metal Mulisha was freestyle motocross for a long period of time, where it was like nobody could even think about freestyle motocross without thinking it was Metal Mulisha.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
and I think it was just that whole era of when that like freestyle kind of started and was born. Like Metal Mulisha was also born, so I think
because it was right there from the get
together.
Yeah. So I never really got to hang out per se. Like all the dudes, all the militia were always hanging out and doing militia things. I don't know what militia things are. You know what I'm saying? Like I never like went and hung out. The most hanging out I ever did with anyone that rode Team Mulisha would be go ride. Show up and go ride out in the hills, Beaumont, or, go do a ride from Linkogel's out into the farm. And it was out in the wine country. But I look back at like Metal Mulisha pictures where it's like a bunch of dudes. I was never in those pictures. And it's crazy to think that they ever had parties without me being there. What the fuck? You know what I'm saying? Like, I am the fucking life of the party there. I never got invited, so I
remember it was always like a little weird, like sometimes you would be, like we would all be cool with each other, but then sometimes everyone would be like, oh fuck Metzger, dude, and then Metzger would be like, oh fuck those guys, like, it always just depended on what was going on. But I always would hit up Metzger to fucking go ride his place or like do shit.
It's funny, people ask me all the time, you ever stay in touch with those guys? And I'm like, fuck, not really. Like I see him around, but the one guy I do have to find out what the fuck you're doing is you, Twitch. Like out of everybody, I always, have you in the back of my mind, like, this dude's cool. Like,
Yeah.
But
even my
your-
dad, after the last show we did, and my dad saw it finally, he had so much stuff to say about you.
That's
Not
right.
only you
Yeah.
being like one of the best dudes on a dirt bike, hands down, that he's ever
Thank you.
seen, and has stories about you riding and just parking your bike in the back of your truck without,
Wheeling it in.
just wheeling it in without a loading ramp.
Just
was pretty
smash the
impressive. Yeah, Ted was pretty impressed with the loading your bike up without a loading ramp. But, and then just, it's just really cool to see how even you pushing it. Like, I saw one of your one of your reels or whatever, and you're just like talking about how much you love bikes, and people go, "You still ride bikes? Why didn't you retire?"
Yeah.
And
Why the
it's
fuck
like,
would I do that?
it's like, out of anyone I see talking about dirt bikes, like, you still act like a kid more than
Yeah.
anyone, and that's why we ride bikes. It brings
you
out
young.
the kid
It
in
does.
us.